What is going down, everybody? Episode 19 is here. You guys voted. We had really, really great response. Probably our best poll yet. You know, it's exciting for us to put those up because we're able to gauge your excitement on what we're talking about. And this week was definitely a resounding work-life balance. So that's what we're here to talk about today. So BG and I have a lot of good insight on that personally, about our personal challenges with that, and even got some good feedback and questions from some of you guys who listen to us as well. So it's really, really cool. Super excited to jump into this one. So BG, what's going on, my guy? How we doing?
I'm fantastic, man. Besides this cold I'm trying to fight and being congested, other than that, I'm great. What about yourself, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm ready to roll.
Yeah. So, dude, when the poll came out and it was work-life balance, the first thing I did was I actually wrote down what comes to mind when I hear work-life balance.
All right.
And this is what came to mind first. It was harmony, prioritization, awareness/mindfulness, boundaries, and then alignment to values. Now, that is my personal opinion.
Mm-hmm.
When you hear work-life balance, what are some of the first things that maybe come to your mind?
Well, first off, I do want to tell you, man, when you just read those off, boundaries might be the most powerful word that we could use in this episode today. It really might be, because that's pretty much the center of what we're going to talk about. Like, that's what no one seems to be setting for themselves.
Yeah.
But for what I would think about, man, I would say probably pressure. I think people put pressure on a work-life balance, mainly because they're not properly, applying it. And then I think, stress is another thing I think of with work-life balance that causes people stress.
I agree.
But man, the word boundaries, I don't think we're gonna be able to top that one. So I think maybe we should dive into that a little bit and talk about maybe some of the boundaries that people are not setting for themselves.
Yeah. I mean, and real quick, just how I can kind of relate to boundaries. So, and your buddy Danny there outreached to us. He just started a new job, and he said he was kind of having some challenges balancing the work-life balance. So with boundaries, it's huge. And so with that, you have to communicate to either your manager, your director, whoever, that, if you have a family, what I've done is I said to my manager, I have to leave at 5:00 Monday through Friday. And it's because I have to pick up my boys from daycare. Daycare closes at 5:30. So
just to verify here, man, you work from home.
This is true. I work.
You know what I mean? So people, we do have our remote folks who listen to this, and obviously our on-site people. So in this case, you work from home, but you set that boundary, whether it was on-site or remotely, you were setting that boundary.
Without a doubt. Because then if I got to pick them up before 5:30, I don't know what they do. But anyway.
Yeah, fine. So,
exactly. Yeah. So I set that to, I communicated that from the get-go with my manager, but also my team.
Mm-hmm.
And so then that way people know not to schedule meetings at 5:00.
Yeah.
I'll give you a good example about really setting the boundary and making it a non-negotiable at 5:00. I was on a call with my manager the other day, and it was 5:02. He knows. And so I spoke up and I said, hey, it's 5:02. It's family time. And right away he's like, oh, yep. I got you. All right. We'll catch up tomorrow. So he knows.
Yeah.
And he was apologetic.
Yeah.
But it's because I've clearly communicated that this is my family time.
Yeah.
And I was respectful, but you have to communicate and you have to set the boundaries and you stick to them. I've gotten meeting invites before at 5:00, and I've declined them with stating exactly why.
Yeah.
Okay? If you don't communicate and if you don't create those boundaries, no one is going to know about them. So you will get 5:00 meetings. Or if you have to leave at 4:00 for maybe some sort of sickness or something.
Yeah.
If you're not communicating that, and if you're not setting the boundaries, people don't know.
You're absolutely right.
And
that's you have to respect your own time for others to respect it.
Yeah. 100%.
And that's what we don't do. Okay. Yeah. Because you want to bend over backwards for your place of work or whatever it may be, right? Because you want to be that good employee in a lot of ways. But because you're doing that, you're not respecting your own time. and you're not respecting your personal life, right? And that's where the balance comes in. So setting boundaries, absolutely, and being upfront, like you said, 100%. That you have to do those things, because I think we have a fear of maybe getting in trouble for that, right?
Yeah.
But it's go ahead, man.
But you also, there's like a false, to me, in my opinion, in corporate America, there's always like that false sense to where leaders have to work past a certain time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like past 40 hours.
Yeah.
But in my mind, like, I am incredibly productive when I start work. So when I log off for the day, I am not feeling guilty for logging off.
Yep.
But it seems to me that the higher you climb up the corporate ladder, it's almost like, yes, you will have more responsibilities, but if you can structure your day accordingly,
there it is. Yep.
You don't have to work those long hours. And I was reading a study, according to the Mayo Clinic, when you work over, I forget offhand, I believe it was around 60 hours.
Yeah.
Your work starts to decline.
Well, clearly.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like there's no benefit. I mean, you're thinking that it looks good that you're working a certain amount of hours.
Right.
But I challenge you this. When I sometimes see someone working and sending late emails, I also actually have a sense like, do you have trouble balancing your work? Like, are you behind? So you have to work that late. That goes through my mind.
Yep.
Because it's like, do I need to take something off of your plate because you're working that late? Like, there's no excuse for that.
No, and you know what, man? And sometimes it's like it's almost like, is that like a subtle flex? Like, that you're showing me you're working late, you know what I mean? Yeah. But it's like, you're barking up the wrong tree for that, you know what I mean? Because like, not impressed, you know what I mean? So it's like,
I'm just like, do you not have a family? Do you not have kids?
And say you don't, right? Because, and I want to stress this too, the work-life balance, that life balance is self-care, right? Like
100%.
You don't need to have kids. We have kids, so that's where our mind goes, right? Because we have other people in our lives we have to take care of. But we also take care of ourselves, right?
Yeah, 100%.
And that's where it's important too, because like I said about respecting your own time, right? But respecting yourself in general is another big cog in this whole thing.
Yeah.
Okay. You have to respect yourself enough to take care of yourself. It's not being selfish. There's a very, very big line in the sand there between being selfish and having self-care. Yeah. And with the work-life balance, when the scale is seemingly always tipping in the work side of things, you're going to neglect yourself first, because you're not going to neglect others, because you're going to feel bad and obligated to maintain those relationships. So what's the first thing that you take off your plate is taking care of yourself. And that should be the last thing that comes off your plate.
Yeah. Okay? I like
because
I'm glad you said that.
Because it's real, right? And we're all guilty of it. To this day, I mean, you and I, we stress structure, and I do want to go back to that because we structure our days almost in a way that's like our crystal ball. Mm-hmm. We know what's coming down the pipeline. Every day, pretty much to the 10-minute mark, we know where our day is going to sit. And there's some things we understand in work that come at you, and there's curveballs and things like that, right? But because you've made either a list or you structured your day or a to-do list to start your day, and you have them by priority, then you know where these curveballs can fit in your day. And those things that are low on the priority list, then they wait till tomorrow, or they wait until Monday. But you have to, that list doesn't need to be fully X'd out at the end of your day if it's prioritized. Right. So, we always talk about structure. We always talk about making these lists and using these methods. And for us, we use our boards and stuff like that. But like, you have to structure your day. That's how you create your boundaries, in my opinion. You're good, brother?
Yeah. No, dude, I agree with you spot on. I mean, you have to have self-care, because of course we know that trickles in and it positively impacts you as a father, a husband. It positively impacts your work. You're more motivated. You sleep better. I mean, it positively impacts so many areas of your life.
It really does.
And one thing too that people need to really take a look at the mirror. You just see where your values stack up to like work-life balance. Now, we've made this very clear that our number one value is family. It's always going to be family.
Yep.
So when you compare your work-life balance, scale it 1 through 10. What do you give, your relationship with your wife or your spouse, your significant other? Is it a 10? Be real. If it's a 6, but yet your work is a 10, you've got to do some hard looking in the mirror and be like, okay, this has got to be more balanced. And when we say work-life balance, to me, I feel like balance isn't true. It should be like work-life harmony to me.
Yeah.
The reason why I say that is because primarily we work like 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
And so then we have that maybe couple hours with our significant other and our kids, or if we don't have kids, significant other,
Right.
But it has to be harmony. And what I mean by that is if family is your number one value, you have to prioritize that. Work may be, where you're spending the majority of your time, but if something comes up related to family, you're going to drop that and do what you need to do.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to talk about like a story, because not a story, but this is, growing up. The good thing about our parents is we can learn to incorporate into our life, or maybe to stay kind of like away from, or not.
Yeah.
And so one thing was my dad would always work later. Mm-hmm. And I remember this because my mom would always work third shift. So she had to leave around like 7 o'clock. And so my dad would typically come home right at 7 o'clock. And so she would always be very like stressed. And I remember sitting on the stairs with my mom. And as soon as my dad walked in the door, my mom would leave to go to work, kind of in a tizzy fit.
Right.
And so I remember that because it's like, that was their interaction. So at 7 o'clock, that was their interaction. And when my mom would leave, she wouldn't get home till like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. And I actually, it's funny too, is I brought this up to my mom a couple weeks ago. So it's funny how we're doing work-life balance. But I said, when she would leave, the house didn't feel whole. And it's because it feels so good when you have both parents there. Mm-hmm. Your house feels whole. Like you just feel so much love.
Right.
And so I made a promise very early on, even before I had kids, that I was not going to work like that. I was not going to work late. Mm-hmm. And looking back at my dad, as much as I love my father, because he's a great man, he did not set boundaries. Mm-hmm. He did not say, hey, I'm done at this time, and just log off for the day.
Yeah.
He continued to kind of not have a boundary. Yeah. So he would continue to work. So what would happen is my mom would get upset with him. And then we would have just a little bit of time with my dad before we go to bed. So I learned from that. And so that is why I have a concrete, we say boundary, but for me, it's a non-negotiable. I'm done. I'm done at 5.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to do that because if you are working late, understand that that's time away from either, like you were saying, self-care or your family. That is very important.
Yeah, absolutely it is. And I think, and not to generalize because it's not fair, but I think maybe our parents' generation didn't understand that fully, maybe. You're right, because my dad used to work late, you know what I mean? And I remember 100%. Like my mom being like, dinner's hot on the table and this guy's nowhere to be found, right? Yeah. So, and I used to just aggravate her. I remember that, and rightfully so, you know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like there's I think maybe a generational gap where we can do a better job with that and understanding that. Yeah. But like you said, man, it's like a non-negotiable, and that's a really good way to put it. Because if you give that a little bit of leeway, you know what I mean?
Take advantage of it. Oh yeah, people
every time.
Take advantage of it. Yeah,
every time. So there has to be, and also with that, if you are in a relationship, if you do live with a significant other, wherever that is, right, hold them accountable to that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because
speak up.
Exactly. Because maybe they don't see it.
Right.
Maybe they don't understand it and how it's affecting other people. And that's hard because, my wife works really hard. Okay. Mm-hmm. She does, and she's going to get her doctorate. She's working a full-time job. She travels all around the country. Like she does these things. and we've had some pretty good conversations about like that work-life balance thing. But it wasn't for me, and it wasn't for the kids, because she never ever once neglected either one of us, myself or the girls, ever. She never has. That's it. She knows that. But I would see it, and I would see that her level of stress was different sometimes. I'd be like, you gotta stop. You gotta unplug. Like you gotta learn to shut it off a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And she'll like jokingly say sometimes, like, it's like I'm a workaholic. You know what I mean? And so, like, I was thinking about that when we were kind of prepping for this whole thing this last week, and I'm like, all right, well, what qualifies a workaholic, or how many people think they're workaholics, right? So I looked it up. 48% of the workforce believes they're workaholics.
Oof,
and I'm like, God damn, like that's a big ass number. Like you're well aware that you're overworking yourself, and you're well aware you're neglecting other things in your life, and you can't stop. So like, that was a shocking number to me.
Too, I mean, I think a lot of that has to do with people working remotely now too. It's because, I mean, let's be real. If something's in the back of your mind, like, oh, I didn't send this, I'm just going to go on real quick. Yep. You're not going to go on real quick. You're going to find something, you're going to do something, and you're going to be on for a couple hours. Right. I think that's a huge issue. I mean, and dude, I'm guilty sometimes, like in the morning, like after I've done my morning routine, before I go get Theo or Charlie, get them dressed for daycare, I'll log on real quick and just see what I got going on, but I'll be on for like 2 minutes, if that.
It's easy.
It's easy. It's convenient. It's right here.
Mm-hmm. It is. And that's the hardest part, like almost physically unplugging, right? You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's really hard because everything's right there, and it's hard to escape. And a lot of it's on our phones. You know what I mean? So like it's always almost near you and tempting you, right? But you have to set those non-negotiables. For me personally, right now, what I'm finding a hard time with is more of what you and I are doing. I'm having a hard time unplugging from that, and I'm having a hard time letting my mind step away from that, right? And that's where my struggle is. I've never identified with my profession. I've never once identified myself in that sense, like where I was proud to say what I do for a living. I just never have, right? Okay. Yeah. I've always identified myself with who I am outside of my job in my field. But now I'm finding myself identifying with what we're doing.
Nice. So what do you say? Because I'm just curious. I'm like, when someone says, "Oh, what do you do?" Because I've been doing the same thing.
Well, like for what we're doing right now, you're saying?
Yeah. So like, if someone says, "Hey, John, what do you do for work?" What do you say?
I still say what my profession is.
Oh, dude. So I've been saying, "Oh, I'm in healthcare, but I'm doing this. I'm okay. We have a podcast. We're working towards a fitness and coaching thing." Like I light up talking about that.
No, for sure. And it's not a sense of like shame or imposter syndrome or anything like that, right? Yeah. For me, I'm like, okay, if I get asked about it now, I want to be able to present them with everything. Like this is our website, this is what we offer. These are my programs that we have, like all these things like that. Like so that like once that hits, exactly, like bitch, sign up. You know what I mean? So it's like that's where I want to be with it. Yeah. But yeah, so it's like. But like I'm on call a lot from my job. Yeah. My phone is essentially my office. I have 5 states, 19 locations that will try to contact me regularly for various reasons. So like, but I'm doing a better job now that I'm more aware of it because of the work you and I are doing. Mm-hmm. That I'm understanding what's not priority, and then
you're setting those boundaries.
I'm setting way better boundaries now.
Nice.
And I think it's because that I've discovered really who I am and what I really, really care about. Mm-hmm. And that almost set the boundaries for me. Yeah. Not that I didn't care about things before, right? But I was more aware of how to, balance my life and balance my days and really be thankful and grateful for the things I have in my life, right? Yeah. And that's where I was able to set those boundaries when I really put an emphasis on that. I always say stack gratitude now because, our boy Milet says that, and he's instilled that in me where it's like, you know what, that's a real thing. And I really, truly believe that now. It's part of who I am and what I believe. And that set those boundaries for me. You know what I mean? And so that's another thing. What are you grateful for, right? Yeah. Are you ever going to sit there and say you're grateful for your 9 to 5? For what it provides you, maybe. Yeah. But for who it makes you are as a person, probably not.
No, I agree with that 100%. And the challenge that we've been facing, because right before we started recording, we were talking about our journey. And at first, like you were saying, we felt guilty when we weren't actually doing something for either the podcast or for like our fitness and coaching business. We just, if we weren't doing something for that, we felt guilty.
Yeah.
And so we had a very open conversation, you and I, and we said, hey, we have to disconnect like on the weekends. Like it's family time.
Right.
Let's give ourselves a break. Eric Thomas, who I love, he's got some phenomenal motivational stuff. UOU is a great YouTube clip, so watch that. But he said, give it time. Like if you're chasing either a goal, if you're chasing a dream, give it time. Don't just try it. He said, if it's going to take a year, let it take a year. If it's going to take 2, like he goes, it could take a decade. You have to give it time. And so we started to really enjoy the journey more. I think we both have.
Yeah.
And what my wife and I have done, similar to you and Danny, is we've been very transparent with each other. There have been times when, you've done the same thing, John, where instead of you and I connecting like we were planning the podcast or doing something to progress, we're like, hey, you know what? I definitely got to connect with, Danny or Val. And so, and you and I respect that. We're like, hell yeah, man, good on you for recognizing that,
Exactly.
And so the other day when Val and I went on our like lunch date, I told her, because Tom Bilyeu said the same thing on impact theory. Sometimes we tend to get so like heads down that we're focusing on our dream, our ambition, that we may not necessarily feel disconnected from our spouse, but our spouse may feel disconnected from us. Yeah. So I told Val, I said, if you feel like that and I'm not recognizing that, tell me, because I don't want you to start to either resent me or be like, oh, he should know, when it's like, I may not pick that signal up. And so the reason why I say that is if there's significant others or others in relationships where you feel disconnected from your spouse, but you almost feel guilty for saying, hey, you know what? I feel guilty if I say, hey, I feel disconnected from you because you love working so much. No, voice that up. Tell them you're feeling disconnected because they may not recognize it because they're so focused on work. Now, this goes back to work-life balance, not being in harmony. So if someone doesn't recognize that, I think you as a significant other are justified in speaking up. Again, communication is key. There's no boundaries. You got to talk about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude, absolutely. And we always have a lot of good conversations about that, man. We really do. And we're, like you said, we're very honest because, I mean, guys, for those of you who don't know, like, there is not a single day that's gone by in the past 5 months BG and I haven't talked. We literally have spoken every single day.
Every day.
We take the weekends off from like sitting down in front of a computer and in front of like each other like this or FaceTiming and stuff. And
Sunday we're normally talking.
Sunday we talk. Sunday night we always talk. But Sunday night we're getting ready for the week at that point.
Yes,
so but like you said though, there's no excuse but for either of us to if we have like this feeling where it's like, I should probably just spend some time tonight with Danny or Val, like we should just spend some time to
Yeah.
And it's understood. Yeah. Okay. And that goes, like we always say too, like-minded people. That's why it's important to have those people in your life because they'll understand and they're not going to be judgmental of you and they're not going to be afraid to tell you. So those are the people you need to kind of, keep this thing a well-oiled machine and that balance where it needs to be. Yeah. Because sometimes it's hard. Like you said, man, you're so hyper-focused sometimes. Sometimes it's just hard. Yeah. And for, Dan, man, I heard you. I saw it on our live before we went on here. Yeah. You have a new job, man. And we've touched base a few times on it and you said it's going well. And for those of you who have new jobs, right? I can't stress the structure thing enough. That's the best advice I could have for it. I think if you set your day and set the table for your day before you clock in that day, before you sit down in front of your computer, whatever it may be, and you have your to-do list, then I think you're going to have a better idea on where you stand at 4:00 in the afternoon
100%.
instead of cramming to finish your day or sitting there pissed because you're late. So that's the biggest advice that we pretty much have for everything is having structure. So,
and I got some good tips or recommendations.
Let's do it. Fire away, my guy.
For how to improve work-life balance here. So, Danny, this may help. Also, some other people, this may help as well. Some of these are probably going to be like, well, yeah, that makes sense. But let's be real. Some of them may not. So, learn to say no. Now, Gabby said this last week on her episode.
Yeah, she did.
She said that she's improved on knowing where to say no. So you have to set the boundaries to when, hey, say no to something, whether it be a meeting or maybe going out with friends or something. If you feel that is not something that either you should be doing or a valuable time, then say no. But if you know that you need to go out with your friends or something, then okay, yeah, but say no to something, but learn to say no.
Yeah.
This is a good one here. Use lunch breaks. Take that time to step away from work to recharge your body. How many people will grab something to eat and just work?
Sit back down and work.
And that is just so bad.
Chaos.
And I don't know, I mean, my company, you get paid to take a lunch break. You know what I mean? And I'm taking it.
It's law. You have to.
And I feel better after I've stepped away, recharged the batteries, and just focused on something. Oh my God, yeah.
God damn it, people. Go outside.
I take a 20-minute walk on the treadmill. Yeah. But I take a 20-minute walk on the treadmill just to kind of get the body moving, have something light, come back, and I feel good. But take that lunch break. Step away. So this one goes back to communication that we've talked about. So open lines of communication with flexibility. So anyone that has kids or maybe they're taking care of their parent or something, have those meaningful, open conversations with your leadership on anything that if you need flexibility, communicate that.
Yeah.
You already said this, John, and I'm just going to reiterate it. It's prioritize your health, whether it be something in the morning or something after work. And that means like daily meditation, could be, exercise, gratitude practice, like what you said before. Using your fucking PTO for the love of God. I don't know how many people in my company lose time off. I just don't get it. And there's sometimes, hey, you feel guilty for taking time off. Fine. I don't personally get it. Because you sometimes you sell your soul for your work and okay, Brian, calm down. But use your PTO. Like for real, use your PTO. Use your PTO. I've already said this before. Communicate boundaries. Okay. Set them and communicate them. If you are setting your own boundaries, but you're not communicating them, nobody knows. Nobody knows. So you can't get pissed at someone if they don't know it. So communicating. A simple way to do this, what I have done in the past, is because now I don't even do it because everybody just knows that I'm done at 5, is I used to block off from 5 o'clock on. I put out of office so everyone knew that, hey, that's just another simple way that if you need to leave at that time, block it off your calendar.
Yeah, absolutely. Out of office is so underutilized, man. I actually had that conversation today with somebody about using out of office and that it's there for a reason.
Me and my buddy Bill, we also block off our lunches. From 12 to 1, we block off that time. Nobody schedules meetings with us.
Yeah, bitch, I gotta eat.
Yeah, that's right. But we titled it like a meeting. I hope no one listens to this and like, what you do? But we titled it a meeting, but it's it's
listen, man, it is what it is.
Yeah. So the other one is invest in relationships that are nurturing and meaningful.
Love that.
Okay? That's huge. Then carve out family time that's devoted entirely to your family and be consistent. So we all know how the grind can be Monday through Friday, especially if you happen to have kids. If you don't have kids and you maybe live with someone, Monday through Friday, it's typically where you're kind of just unwinding from the day. Maybe you watch some Netflix and chill. Maybe you're grinding away on your side hustle.
Netflix
but then on that, that's right. But then on the weekend, like on the weekend, carve that family time out.
Yeah.
Do something. Like
sure.
John and I said, create those memories, create those experiences.
Exactly. Yep.
Do something meaningful. I mean, I don't know how many times Val and I have planned stuff on the weekend just to do something different with the boys, just to get out of the house. And winter sucks. Don't get me wrong, but carve out that family time, man. It's huge, and they appreciate it too.
Yep.
And the last thing that I have goes back to structure, but utilize the core 4 to help structure your day. Okay, just help structure your work-life balance.
Yep.
Now, you talked about this earlier before. Again, core 4 is power, which is all about focusing on your body. Okay, so exercise could be sauna, cold plunge, like John does. Then we have your purpose.
Yep.
So this is where your mind and spirit. So it could be gratitude practice, meditation, reading, something that's going to stimulate you.
Yep.
Then you have passion. So this is all relationships. So you focus on, okay, send a lovely text to your significant other.
Yeah.
Okay. Be present with your kids. If you haven't talked to like one of your best friends in a while, because us guys tend to do a shitty job of staying in touch with our friends, send a text. Or take it a step further, man. Call them and plan a day.
Yep.
And I'm going to say this very. So I have time with my buddy Dave. We scheduled. It was supposed to be this Friday, but I recognized that I needed to have time with Val. I needed to have time with her. I'm feeling a little disconnected, like during the week.
Yeah.
And so I was honest with my buddy Dave. I'm like, hey, you know what? Feeling a little disconnected from Val. It's a crazy week. Let's do something next Friday. Okay?
Yeah.
I love hanging out with Dave. He's a phenomenal dude. We have a lot of common. So I scheduled that time with Dave. I wrote it down under passion. I said, text Dave, plan a day to chill.
Yeah.
And I held myself accountable to that. And then the last one is production. What are you going to get done that day? So you can write everything you have done for work and your side hustle. Something that's going to push that needle.
Yeah.
When you utilize the core 4, or to John's point, when you structure your day, it's going to make your work-life balance so much easier. So much easier.
Yeah, I love that. That's really cool, man. Nice job on that. And what I did today too was something new. Danny just flew out to Florida this morning. She'll be back, I think, late Friday night. So I got the girls. My routine, because I have them solo for 3 days, is shot, right? Like you have to create a new one for 3 days, pretty much, which is fine. Okay. But on when I structured my day today, I just wrote myself a basic reminder, and the reminder was that their routine is going to be different, and that means your routine is going to be different too. I wrote down to be patient with them, but also be very present with them, and to not panic, because there's still going to be room for productivity. Yeah. Because right now, you and I are very, productivity driven. Yeah. We see it and we want it, so we're working hard for it, and we're carving, time out for it. When you and I are doing it, it's after our kids go to sleep. Yeah. So we don't lose that. That balance doesn't shift anywhere. Right. And at that point, my wife's sound asleep. I mean, it's 8:30. She's out. So
yeah, no, same with Val.
So, but like writing yourself a little reminder sometimes too, like that worked for me today. We went to the park, and now it's just like I was so just engrossed in just watching them. Yeah. And it was like, you know what? Like, this is great. I'm unplugging a little bit now. Dude. I was present. And it so there's a lot that goes into the work-life balance. It's really stressful. It's really hard to get it right. But trust your instincts and set your boundaries and take care of yourself, and it'll slowly start to come into place. And, I did hear one thing, man. And I heard it maybe a few weeks ago, and of course it came back up again, right? And it was this quote that came up, and it said, the normal average human life expectancy is 78 years. Retirement age on average is 67 years. So you have, out of 50 years, you're enjoying about 11.
That's sad.
And it's like, because I mean, think about it as an adult, that is, right? As you're a kid, obviously, you're not working on that, but that was just like, man, 11 years, like that's from 67 to 78. Like that's where it is, right? So like, but you know what? Take life by the nuts now then. Okay.
Yeah.
And that should be your goal, right?
Yeah.
Don't wait till you're 67. I've been having meetings at work this last month and a half, and people are telling me I can't retire. I can't afford to retire. And it's like, God damn. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, that balance is way off.
Yeah.
If that's your mindset. So,
and I'm going to say this, man, because I'm sorry to interrupt you, but this is good. Ringing in my ear. Mm-hmm. Set a higher standard for yourself.
Amen.
Set it.
Yep.
And that includes your relationships. That includes with your self-improvement. That includes your self-care. Set a higher fucking standard.
I love that. You know what? That's where we end it. That's where we end it.
Baby.
All right, guys. Episode 19. Really great feedback lately. Really good interaction. Your boys are on TikTok. We're on Facebook. We're on IG. We're on YouTube. We're trying to pump all this content out because we have a lot we want to get to you guys. We appreciate your interactions. Keep them coming. Ask the questions. Partake in the polls and all that good shit because we do it for a reason.
Right.
But, the main thing is that we appreciate the hell out of you guys. And we can't thank you enough for kind of being on the ride with us. So thank you very much. We'll catch you guys next Monday for our new pod, episode 20. But until in the meantime, check us out on all of our social media platforms. We appreciate it, guys.